We'll call to order the Board of Zoning Appeals. Would you stand for the pledge, please? Pledge allegiance to the flag. Please remain standing for a moment of silence. Thank you. Call roll, please.
Mike Curtis.
Here.
Amber Brown. Jerry Sartain.
Here.
Gary Farley.
Here.
Renee Curtis. Here. Zane Cantrell.
Yes.
We have a quorum.
You have the minutes of our last meeting, and do you have any changes or corrections to the minutes?
Move to be approved, Mr.
Have a
Chairman.
motion they be approved.
Second, please.
Have a second. Call roll, please.
Mike Curtis.
Yes.
Amber Brown. Jerry Sartain. Gary Farley.
Yes.
Renee Curtis.
Yes.
Zane Cantrell.
Yes. The first item of business is a request by Michael Cochrane, who is TTL USA on behalf of Renewables. This is a request for a variance relief of 50. We have a maximum of 50 feet, so they're asking for 24 feet. So what do you have on that, please?
Application BZA 2023-14 is a request for variance relief from the 50-foot maximum height limit to allow for a flare stack measuring 74 feet and a thermal oxidizer measuring 69 feet upon a property being developed as a renewable natural gas facility, and it's located in the heavy industrial zoning district. The site at location is at the Middle Point landfill, and that parcel's 804 acres, and this facility will be located on the 804-acre landfill. They are seeking variance relief for the flare stack and thermal oxidizer for the facility. They have gone through the process of site plan review. It has not yet been approved by the Planning Commission, but as one of the items that was brought up during the review of the facility, it was determined that they needed to seek a variance for these two items, that according to the applicant, they're required equipment for this type of facility. So right now, the height of the landfill is 147 feet taller than the proposed flare stack. And these two items that will serve the RNG facility will, the RNG facility will select that location because it's dependent on the landfill operations. And so that's what staff determined to be unique to the particular request and the site as well as the use. Back in January of 2023, Doug had appeared before you, and this particular use was not classified specifically in our zoning ordinance. And so staff recommended that the heavy industrial zoning district, which is our most intensive industrial district, was appropriate for this type of use. And you guys agreed with staff's opinion, and therefore they were able to move forward with the site plan review. So we found that the granting of the variance is not detrimental to the public welfare or injurious to other properties in the area because of the presence of the landfill. Right now, the landfill measures, the top of the landfill measures 147 feet taller than the proposed flare stack, and given the large acreage, we felt that the presence of the landfill has not deterred development over the past few years. We've actually seen a lot of activity with mini storages, retail, and multifamily development in this area. And so we found that it would not affect the surrounding properties. And so let's see. So we found that the request meets the criteria for variance approval, and that concludes our presentation. We did take photos. Sorry, I'm a little... No, that's okay. We posted a sign on site. We did receive a letter in opposition that was emailed to each of you from the city of Murfreesboro, but and we received no other calls. If we did, it was informational. No one indicated opposition to the proposed request. And these are photos of the area itself. I probably didn't get the exact site because of the size of the parcel. So these are the details that were provided by the applicants, the flare stack and the thermal oxidizer. The flare stack is the 74-foot structure, and the thermal oxidizer is the 69-foot structure. And that concludes our presentation now.
Any questions for staff? Go ahead.
Just to make sure, because I can't, it's more of a point of clarity, there's not any homes near where this is going. I know it's a pretty large parcel, but I can't tell based on the graphics.
Okay. There's a parcel across the river. If you zoom out a little bit.
There's Barrett's Ridge that's across.
Yeah, this is one parcel here.
Is this the parcel that was just rezoned to commercial and light?
Actually, this is the one
allowed for
north
the.
of that.
Okay,
This
the
one
mini
here.
storage facility. So that's a residential parcel that was rezoned recently to allow for retail and mini storage facility. You actually considered that application, but there is a residential parcel at 5012 Lebanon Road.
Yeah.
Sorry.
And if I may, there are several big residential developments planned for this area. Mike Hughes, Rutherford County engineer, sorry. So we have one here, and another one here that is planned to be starting construction pretty soon. But there are a few residential houses in the area. There's one here, one across the street, I think one here. So they propose to have it in this area right here, on the western edge of their property near the bend of the East Fork of the Stones River.
I got a question, Mr. Chairman. I don't know who can answer this question, but can someone explain, I got an idea, but can someone explain actually what this flare stack or this thermal oxidizer will be doing? Will there be a flame?
The applicant is here, and I don't want to steal their thunder.
Be a flame.
The applicant is here if you want them to answer the question. I would assume so with the name flare stack, yeah.
Well, let me ask you this then. We'll get that. In your report, and I'm assuming you've been a part of this as well, you state that there's no hazard to this. And the reason for the height, have you verified that there would be no hazard from whatever comes out of the stacks? How do you verify that?
Well, the use is approved for this site, so it's a use by right that we've already determined. The flare stack, we're just seeking a height variance, and so we would find that to not have any hazardous impacts because it's part of a facility that's permitted by right.
Mr. Chairman, another question for staff. What are the setbacks for such an operation in the heavy industrial zone when it's next to a residential medium? How far does these have to be set back from those zoning?
I think they said 150 feet, didn't it?
Pardon?
Did you say 150 feet on here? Is that where it is?
Yes, but the setbacks that are required for the district, just the yard regulations, are 74 front, 30 for the side, and 50 feet for the rear. And keep in mind that this is been in review by staff for a couple months, and the setbacks were already determined to be met, or we would be here asking for a setback variance. They are just seeking a height variance for 2 items associated with the facility.
That facility that's existing there, that's their water treatment facility, is it not? It's right there in the bend of the river?
That might be their methane collection terminal.
I see
no.
the, you know, where they collect the leachate?
Oh, here?
Yes.
Yes.
That's already there.
Shaking their head, yes, yes.
Okay.
Another question is why does this have to go higher than the permitted 50 feet?
I think that, right, according to the applicant in the staff report, they indicated that it was a federal requirement, but why it's a federal requirement, maybe they can answer themselves. So.
We can ask the folks who are making this request to come forward at this time and answer some of these questions, if you will, please.
While they're coming up, another federal requirement is the FEMA flood zone that they're building in. They have to build above the floodplain for that. So that's one of the things we're watching as well.
The big question I have, guys, is this. Are you sure, can you assure us that there's no pollution or anything that comes from this? If you'll deal with that first, you'll have some more.
Mr. Chairman, if you could
Talk
turn on,
into the
if you could
microphone.
turn on their mic, please.
Tell them to turn the mic on.
Is it on? Now.
Sorry.
I'm Mike Cochrane with TTL. We're the consulting engineers that is working on the permitting for the facility. I've got Mike Johnson with me. Mike works with Kia Energy, who will be the operator of the facility. He flew in from Houston today, so we want to be able to talk about this. Talk about the air permitting and what's required there, since that was the first question they wanted us to ask.
Sure. So just first off, there's already an existing flare there that's combusting these gases. Essentially, what we're doing is relocating that. The flare is for upset conditions or for outages, and so that's when that flare would be essentially lit very, very highly. You can see based on the general arrangement drawing that was shown, it's the flame is shielded. It'd be a wisping flame, if you will, under normal circumstances, and then upset conditions or outages is when it would be a larger flame. The thermal oxidizer, there is no visible flame. You may see some heat radiation coming out of there, but there's no visible flame there.
So to clarify, it's the same thing that's being done at this time. It's just raising up to a higher level.
Yes, sir. And so just to kind of take a step back for why we need a flare and why we need a thermal oxidizer. So the gas that's coming out of the landfill has some contaminants in it, and that's what part of our process does. We strip all that stuff out. You can't just emit that to the atmosphere. So the thermal oxidizer is kind of a super destructor, if you will. It takes a lot of that stuff and really cleans it up and makes sure that everything that gets destructed comes out at minimal quantities. We have air permits for all this stuff that's actually been approved by the state of Tennessee. I think it's TDEC is the agency, so that's been approved. So we're good to go on that regard. What other questions you guys have?
Yes, a lot of people are going to want to know, is this where the stink comes from?
So I can't speak to that because I don't deal with landfill operations. I'm with our Kia Energy. We design, build, and operate these renewable natural gas facilities across the country. But as part of what we're doing, we're incentivized to capture as much of the gas off the landfill as possible. There's an existing landfill gas collection system, but now it's all being combusted. It's got to be burned.
What I'm asking is, this is not what generates the smell.
No, sir.
That's the garbage.
Hard for us to say that. I can't make any kind of claims about things, but we're going to try to capture as much of that landfill gas as possible and run it through our plant and then inject it into pipeline so it is used for beneficial uses. So,
I've got a question here. any noise with this entire operation?
Yes, there will be noise. So a lot of our facility is run off electric-driven compression. So we've got a sound study that shows we meet the criteria for the sound study, or sound regulations, which I believe is 65 decibels at 100 feet from our equipment. And we do have a profile that shows that. And so the nearest receptors are well outside of that boundary.
Can you give me an example of what 65 decibels sounds like? Is it a tractor trailer truck, an airplane going overhead? What is 65 decibels for us?
55 decibels is approximately what we get literally right here in this room. Okay, it is a quiet conversation amongst people right
Like
there.
fluorescent lights humming or something like that?
The problem is your frequency right there. That's your annoying frequency. Your decibel is probably going to be lower.
Okay.
But a conversation between two people 5 to 10 feet away usually is in the 55 decibel. I am not a sound engineer, but we have to deal with this in a lot of our stuff. Up here, there has been a sound study done. It kind of shows you where the facility will hit 55 decibels. We're still 200 feet from the East Fork of the river at that point. So we're well within the property line before we hit that 55 decibel mark.
Mike, did you have a question over here?
How often will this flare go off? And you said it would be an invisible flame, or would it be a visible flame?
So the flare is a visible flame. At normal operation, it's the flame is shrouded, so it won't be very visible at that point. The thermal oxidizer will be essentially invisible, and it'll be radiation. But to answer your question about how often the flare would be lit, in a large fashion, hard to say. But we're obviously incentivized. If that flare is going, we're burning our product, which we don't want to do. So I would say it's very infrequently.
Okay, what I was just thinking about is if it's a beautiful summer morning or summer evening and somebody's sitting on their deck and wanting to watch the stars, and all of a sudden there's this big flare that's going to interfere with their lifestyle. I spent some time in Oklahoma around refineries, and I know what those things can look like, and I just wanted to make sure this wasn't one of those things.
Yeah, I'd say we're not going to look like a refinery, which I'm very well aware of what they look like. A lot of flares everywhere. We're trying to be as unobtrusive as possible, and I guess the other point is that our operations, we're trying to be 98% uptime. So most of the time it'll just be you'll see a little wisp and flame, and that's it.
One of the things you have to realize is there's a flare there right now. Okay, we are literally trying to reduce the impact that the flared off gases. They're trying to capture as much as possible. If everything goes right, you would have less of that going on.
I'd like to get to the crux of the application, which is you need 24 more feet.
Sure.
Why do you need 24 more feet?
So, destruction devices such as a thermal oxidizer and a flare are designed with with a flow rate in mind, and then the flow rate dictates the height. So this is our largest size facility. What Archaea has, we have a small, a medium, and a large size facility. This is a large size facility, just based on the quality of the quality of the amount of gas that the landfill is producing. And we have to get the height for heat radiation. If you got a short flare stack, you'd have a ton of radiation at the ground level, and we would need to take up a lot more room, and our facility would be a whole lot larger. Number two is that some of the things that we're destructing, the byproducts of that, you want the flare stack to be higher so that they disperse into the atmosphere, and so that they don't become a nuisance to the public.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Thank you. Go ahead.
Go ahead.
Just a point of clarification. This is for Archaea Energy. This is not for Republic or BFI or whoever. This is your company, the energy company that's out here trying to do this to reclaim gases so you can put that gas to use in a better manner than releasing it out into the air. Is that correct?
Yes, sir. Archaea Energy is we design, build, and will operate this facility in this community for 20 plus years. So
thank you.
One more over
And
here.
I just to make, because I've read the notes and everything, and I'm pretty sure I know this, but there is no cost to Rutherford County in this process?
No, ma'am. We hope that as part of us, building this facility here, will become a benefit to the county. We're going to be using local vendors, hiring local people, those types of things.
Okay. And what is the life expectancy of these units that you're asking for variance?
So hard to say, but we signed 20-year contracts for our offtake. We sell into a natural gas pipeline. We're working on an agreement with Atmos Energy currently. So that's a 20-year contract, but notionally, a landfill will produce gas that we can convert into natural gas for 20 years after it is closed.
Okay, so the process, and I'm a layman, believe me, I know nothing about what you're talking about, as most people don't listening. But so you've got this gas coming up, you're capturing it. Where is it held and how is it transported?
Sure. So the gas is all being essentially, if you been out to the landfill, you've seen a landfill. Yeah, exactly. Most of we try to stay away from those.
Yeah.
But there's wells out there that come back to a blower. They pull a vacuum to try to capture that gas. It now goes to a flare and is combusted. We're going to essentially intercept that deal, and we're going to send that gas to our plant where we remove the water. There's CO2. There's some other different trace contaminants, such that we got 96 to 98% methane that gets injected into the Atmos Energy pipeline.
Okay,
So
and how does it get there?
Compression. So we have a lot of, if you look at our site plan, the site plan has a lot of electric drive compression. It brings it in at low pressure. We bump it up to go through different processing stages to get out the different contaminants, and then it's shipped into the pipeline. But there's essentially no...
Shipped as in trucking?
Shipped as in...
Atmos is bringing a pipeline to the facility.
Okay.
Yes,
There,
sorry.
that's
So
a
it
good,
will
that's a good piece of news that we
Held
should know,
there,
yeah.
It'll be put into the pipeline.
Okay, okay. All right.
When I say shipped, it's interesting to say that, but there has to be a transportation contract between us and Atmos to ship on their pipeline.
Okay.
Sorry.
And this is a Gary question, but as far as fire and, go ahead, Gary. What is it? You've got all those questions that you always ask about the safety and fire control and,
No, I don't have a problem with, because I know it's
Okay.
protected for fire and all that stuff, so.
Yeah, I mean, safety's at the forefront of what we do.
Okay.
Again, uptime, design, all those things we do is with the safety in mind. We know we can't make money if the facility's not running. We don't make money if the facility's burning, those types of things. So
okay, thank you.
you're welcome.
Mike over here has
I'm
one
going
more
to
question.
circle back to the height requirement for the flare stack. You mentioned that it's part of the design calculations. Are there any other existing regulations that require it to be that high, or is it just a design issue?
It's really the design of, we personally don't design these. What we do is we go out to a third-party vendor. There's the thermal oxidizer and the flare are built by different individuals. We go to them with a gas specification and a flow rate, and they come back and say, hey, here's what it's got to be designed to. So it's kind of out of our hands, if that makes sense.
Okay, thank you, gentlemen. You may be seated. We'll open this for a public hearing for anyone who'd like to speak on this request. Let the record show there's no one here to speak on it, so we'll close the public hearing. One more thing here. I do want to recognize the text letter that we received from the city attorney, and I'm assuming our county attorney has reviewed that. I'd like to have a good working relationship with the city, any of the cities, so and I'm not aware that this has gone through the city council or anyone else.
Just real quick, this facility is currently in its process, I believe, with the city with respect to certain other aspects of the project in terms of utility access, but that's not part and parcel of what you're here to determine today. The letter that y'all received, I got it early this morning as well, but with respect to that, I want to turn it back over to Doug, who has some comments. Thank you.
Thank you, Nick, and thank you, Mr. Chairman, for the opportunity just to speak briefly on this. As you alluded to, this particular letter was emailed out last night, close to 11 o'clock. I don't know about you all, but I was already home and in bed by that point. I have early bedtime, but so we didn't really get to start looking at this and digesting this until today. The email that I saw, I don't believe that Mayor Carr was copied on that, so we went ahead and copied him on it, forwarded it to him for his review. He has indicated that he would like some time to digest this, since we just got this really this morning, and to possibly have some conversations with the city about the contents of the letter. Obviously, you know, the applicants are here. They had a right to be heard. We discussed this with them prior to the beginning of the meeting. So at this point, it's going to be up to the board as to how you want to move forward. You do have the ability to defer this application up to 90 days. I don't think it's going to be anywhere near that, but the mayor did express a desire to have 30 days to at least try to digest this, since we just got this morning.
Would you accept a motion to defer?
Yes, go ahead.
We can delay it and hear it next month again, and give us a chance to, and give the staff chance to digest the information that came late last night.
I got a question after if somebody seconds that motion.
I will second it. I'll second that
Second
motion.
over here.
And I understand that, but I got a question about how long has this been on the agenda, and how long has the city of Murfreesboro known about this? I mean, coming in the dark of night at the 11th hour?
Yeah, I know there have been a lot of discussions going on between the applicant and the city. Now, I can't speak to when those discussions first started and everything, nor can I speak to the timing of why this letter was sent when it was, but we're dealing with what we have.
Well, I understand that, but and I guess my point is not to staff. My point is to the city of Murfreesboro. You know, why? Why would, in good faith, did someone come out and talk to the county, talk to the applicant? You know, it's my thing. Instead of sitting at 11 o'clock at night, and nobody having a chance to even talk about it, review it or whatever, you know, and I'm retired from the city of Murfreesboro, and it pisses me off. You know, that ain't the way to do business.
Chairman Cantrell. I won't speak for the city, but they are an adjacent property owner, and they received a letter. I don't know why they waited till now to send it, but this green parcel is the Walter Hill trailhead, and then their greenway goes down the river, the East Fork of the Stones River here. So I assume that's why they received the letter. I don't know why they waited.
And my point exactly, they knew about this in a timely manner and never reached out. I don't have a problem in deferring it. I just want to make and say my piece of how I felt about how this is being handled. But so.
Was there any neighbors that were notified, or was there a sign put up, just normal, just a zoning issue? Did anyone call?
No, we did not receive any phone calls. If we received one, it was informational. No one indicated. And a sign was placed on the property at the entrance, and letters were mailed to property owners within 1,000 feet of that 800-acre
And that's
boundary.
concerning, because everybody wants to talk about smell and whatever, and then you put a zoning sign up there and you get crickets, and then they want to come back and complain about smell? This should be full. So, you know, I don't have a problem with deferring it.
You know, I think we've got enough information on this. In all due respect to the motion, do we really want to defer this?
I think in good faith, we should try to work with the city. They did not give us good faith and respect, showing us at the 12th hour, you know, to pop a letter out here and tell them why they disagree with it. The sign was placed what day?
Well, here's
the
my
si- and the-
thinking on
and-
this. If there's something that they come up with later on in the discussions, assuming you have a good relationship with the city, they can always come back to us with that information.
How many days do they have if we say defer? They have 90? How many days do they have? Can they come back with it if we defer?
We've got a motion, we've got a second. Call the roll, please.
Next meeting, okay. He said he deferred it to next meeting.
That was my motion, to defer it until the next meeting.
Yeah, to next month as your, yeah. I don't see any reason to defer this thing. is what
Mr. Chairman, I concur with you, but the reason that I'm going to vote to put it to the next meeting is out of respect to the county mayor. The county mayor is asked to do that. He is the county mayor, whether you agree or disagree. So I'm going to vote to defer it because of his request as the county mayor. I don't like it, what they've done. They knew it. And so, but that's the reason for my vote.
Anyone else? Mike, you second this. Call the roll, please.
Mike Curtis,
Yes.
Amber Brown.
No.
Jerry Sartain,
Yes.
Gary Farley,
Yes.
Renee Curtis,
Yes.
Zane Cantrell.
Next item of business is Surefire Fireworks. What do you have on that, please?
Thank you. Application 2023-15 involves the property located at 6014 Lebanon Pike, just across the river, adjacent to the Crossroads Market. Surefire Fireworks purchased a property last year adjacent to the Crossroads Market that they've been located for nearly 2 decades. And they would like to establish their fireworks tent and a pumpkin stand on the property located at 6014. This property was rezoned to commercial services, and they are requesting temporary special exception approval for a 40 by 60 tent. The fireworks stand will be open 9 a.m. to 9 p.m. 7 days a week, 2 weeks prior to July 4th. They're planning to have 1 employee stationed at the property. The pumpkin stand will be open from September to October. And the applicant, having operated at the adjacent location for many years, we never had any issues with compliance with prior temporary special exceptions. They'll need to obtain a permit for the tent and demonstrate that all of the setbacks are required or have been met, and we recommend approval. And sorry, I'm a little backwards today. No. And so these are photos of the surrounding area and the adjacent market. And the reasoning that they applied to be located on this site was there were some plans to expand the market, some construction plans, and they didn't know if it would be available during the month of July or even September through October. And so the site has a lot of gravel already on it and some pavement, and that's an adjacent property. And this is a plan that the applicant submitted. They'll have to meet the 40-foot setback from Lebanon Pike. The site contains ample room for off-street parking. And that concludes our presentation.
Do we have anyone here representing this? Do you have any questions? Thank you for being here. We'll open this for a public hearing for anyone who'd like to speak on this request. Close the public hearing. I'll entertain a motion on it.
Motion to approve it.
Have a motion to be approved.
Second.
Have a second. Any further discussion? Call the roll, please.
Mike Curtis.
Yes.
Amber Brown.
Yes.
Jerry Sartain,
Yes.
Gary Farley,
Yes.
Renee Curtis, Zane Cantrell.
Yes. The next item we have is a request by Rodney Scott and Gail McCrary, who is requesting special exemption on accessory structure. What do you have on that, please?
Thank you. Application BZA 2023-16 is a request for special exception approval to allow an accessory structure prior to the establishment of a principal structure on a property located in the RL zone. The site is located at 9325 Patterson Road, and it is a 16-acre property. The applicant is requesting approval to allow him to construct a 44 by 50 foot, a 2,200 square foot storage building that will be used for the storage of building supplies while building the primary residence. The applicant indicates that the residence will be constructed within 1.5 years. We did not receive any phone calls regarding this application. There was a sign posted on the property, and as you can see, these are photos of an adjacent property that's currently, the home is currently under construction. And this is the property that we're looking towards, beautiful property, and surrounding neighbors, and then across the street. And staff found that it meets the criteria for special exception approval, and we recommend approval. Sorry.
Do we have anyone here representing this? If you'll come forward, please. For the record, just give us your name and any additional information you want to share about this. Just, yeah, speak into the microphone.
My name is Gail McCrary. We bought the property 6 months ago, and we are planning on building our primary home there. Like you said, within the next 1.5 years at the most. We just want to put this metal building on the property so that we can use it as storage for building materials or any equipment that might be necessary. It will be behind some trees, so it most likely won't even be seen from the road. And like we showed, there was...
I mean, it's I'm Rodney Scott McCrary. Like you say, it's under construction. We've gotten the road put in. The markers that you see right now are for the power to go in, so all of that's in the process of getting done right now. And we just would like a building to put our stuff in. So,
any questions? Thank you. You may be seated.
thank you.
Appreciate it. We'll open this for a public hearing for anyone who'd like to speak on this request. Close the public hearing. Have a motion on it.
Mr. Chairman, I move that we approve with staff comments, please.
Okay, we have a motion that be approved. Second. Any further discussion? Call the roll, please.
Mike Curtis.
Yes.
Amber Brown.
Yes.
Jerry Sartain.
Yes.
Gary Farley.
Yes.
Renee Curtis. Zane Cantrell.
Yes. Next item we request is a Hernandez, who is requesting a special exemption for an accessory AUD. Is that right?
An accessory dwelling unit, yes, sir. Application 2023-17 is a request for special exception approval for the establishment of an accessory dwelling unit involving a property located in the RM zone. It's a 0.45 acre parcel located at 114 Bluegrass Drive. It's a vacant parcel right now. The applicant is planning to build a principal residence on the site measuring 1,574 square feet, and they would like to also build at the same time a 735 square foot accessory dwelling unit on the property for a family member. And so this site, actually, we've been speaking with the applicant for a couple months, and there is a pre-existing septic system that she had inspected, and it was indicated that she could tie into the existing system, but to obtain approval for an ADU, she needs special exception approval because of the acreage of the property. does not meet the minimum 1 acre by right. So we posted a sign on the property. We did receive some phone calls regarding this application, but they were all informational. And these are it's in a established neighborhood, older neighborhood, surrounding homes on all sides, and then you have the town limits of Smyrna that backs up to this property. So we found that the request meets the criteria for special exception approval, and we recommend approval.
Any questions, staff?
I got one question for staff. When this is done, is there going to be 2 addresses, or is there going to be 1 address to the location? But since there's two structures.
There's 2 structures, that's the road. And the applicant indicates that the driveway will be located on the south portion of the property, and it looks like only 1 driveway is planned. Although it's not very clear on this plan, she is here to answer any questions.
Do we have anyone
We'll
here
have separate
represent?
addresses.
If you'll come forward, please.
Oh, I thought he said access.
Come around to the, just give us your name and any additional information. There may be some questions.
My name is Maritza, and I'm here to build the 2 houses. And it's only going to be 1 driveway on the side of the house. That it's going to take one to the back, and the other one is going to be.
And this is for a family member?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Yes.
Any other questions? Thank you. You may be seated. We'll open this for a public hearing for anyone who'd like to speak on this. Close the public hearing. I'll entertain a motion.
Motion to approve it, Mr.
Have a
Chairman.
motion to be approved.
Second.
Have a second. Any further discussion? Call a roll, please.
Mike Curtis,
Yes.
Amber Brown,
Yes.
Jerry Sartain,
Yes.
Gary Farley,
Yes.
Renee Curtis, Zane Cantrell.
Yes. Is there any further business?
No, sir.
We are adjourned. Thank you for being here.